I know it's a lot of y'all expecting the intro, but for the life of me, I really can't understand. Like, why ain't somebody gotta help me understand? Why is nobody talking about this? Why is nobody talking about this movie, man? I seen the trailer and damn near lost my mind. This gonna be fire. And I mean fire too. I'm not playing. Look, check this out. It's your boy Black Snow, and this is the Chaos Project. And today, man, what we gonna do is run through a few things so we can all appreciate the trailer just a little bit more and understand exactly why the trailer is so hard. Okay, so the first thing, where does the movie take place?
The film takes place in 1932.
What you know about the Jim Crow era?
Listen, this is my opinion. Jim Crow did a job on us. It did.
If you don't know, Jim Crow was never a real person. It was a character invented in a minstrel show to try to emphasize the inferiority of black people.
Post, Reconstruction slavery. And what happened is, with the policies that were set forth, that kept us basically in bondage again, what happened is
something that was created in the southern states that was intentionally trying to keep black people down.
By making it more difficult for African Americans to vote, hold a job, get an education, or freely participate in society.
The black man in America was an exile in his own country. Racism denied Negroes jobs, education, political power, and many of the other rights and privileges of citizenship. In the South, this national problem was most severe. Black and white were rigorously segregated, and segregation was protected by law, custom, violence, and
the Jim Crow era was marked by a reign of domestic terror known as lynching, a grotesque form of mob rule without judge or jury. The first reported lynching is said to have occurred in Madison, Mississippi in 1835. And what followed were decades of hangings, used as a way to terrorize black people.
I seen men die in ways I didn't even know was possible.
To further drive the point home on some of the things that they had to deal with, just look at some of the Jim Crow etiquette.
First one that blows my mind is never assert or even insinuate that a white person is lying. The second one is never lay claim to or even demonstrate superior knowledge and intelligence towards a white person. Third, never curse at a white person. Fourth, never laugh at a white person. Man, this is sounding like TikTok. Number 5, and for sure the one that hit me the hardest, is never show love and affection to another black person in public.
Careful, boy. You're gonna bite off more than you can chew.
And on top of it being the Jim Crow era, it was also the Great Depression.
During the Depression, unemployment for blacks is at 50%. Twice the rate of whites. Jim Crow laws mean segregation is still widespread. Even the New Deal discriminates against African Americans. Whites get the pick of the jobs and a higher wage.
And this was also the time of Prohibition.
Beginning in 1920 and lasting until 1933, the U.S. lived under the shadow of the 18th Amendment.
And if you know your American history, that was in the waning years of the Volstead Act,
which prohibited the manufacturing, sale, and transportation of booze.
While hundreds of thousands of Southern whites supported it as well, in part because they believed alcohol turned black people into brutes.
There was a lot in the temperance movement and the prohibition movement that was really temperance and prohibition for somebody else. It was the peak of Jim Crow and the prohibition movement in the South. Much of it was fear of this double combination, the scariest thing to a white Southern racist, a black man with a ballot in one hand and a bottle in the other hand. And they would do anything to keep the black man from having either one.
Hold up, let's pause for a minute and just run everything back so we don't get too lost. So you're in the middle of the Great Depression in the Jim Crow South. I mean, people starving and dealing with nonsense. On top of that is Prohibition. You can't work. Not that you don't want to work, but you can't. You got to feed yourself. You got to feed your family. And there's an illegal substance right there in front of your face. What do?
Naturally, the inventiveness of the American spirit kept alcoholic spirits flowing the entire time.
When they go to these horse trading stockyard sales, they sold stock, they sold cattle, but they also sold liquor. They'd be liquor out of the back of them trucks, them cattle trucks.
The shot, that's beer bottles there on the back of a truck that's heading out in the backwoods of Mississippi. You know, it's the equivalent of having like a, an illicit drug today.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? The era of Prohibition.
You know, and they trade liquor, just like trading money. Liquor was just as good as money. You have them old boys coming from Kentucky and different places like that, and they might buy a heifer and leave with a case of liquor too.
People unable to stockpile were only able to buy alcohol if they used it for sacramental purposes, or if their doctors wrote them a prescription for it. Needless to say, rabbis and doctors became very popular. Everyone else looking to wet their whistle took to smuggling, from small-scale personal use up to large-scale operations.
And that's how they made their money. In them days, there wasn't too much stuff black people could build and say, this is mine, I own this. I bought and paid for it.
You fellers must be the owners of this establishment.
That's right. That come far and few between, but they were able to do these things, by bootlegging and trading and everything.
And what better way to sell alcohol than to have a party?
Grandfather run a joint. It was a restaurant, pool hall, he had a bar, he had a kitchen, they had a dance floor. That's how he sold his liquor, he sold his beer.
Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink?
Shit. All right, so now we have to get into the characters and the symbolism around them.
Don't cry.
The twins are the scariest characters that people are interacting with until they meet this guy who's bringing a whole nother element to the characters that hopefully we fall in love with at this point.
So coming from California, I caught it right off the bat. Two brothers. In red and blue.
Stack is gonna be in red throughout the movie and Smoke's gonna be in blue.
They not monsters to me, cause I get them. But to America.
You twins? Nah, we cousins.
I'm talking about Westside, Pyru, NHP, Campanella, Carver Park, Front Hood, Nutty Block, Lantana, 151, Park Village, Cedar Block, Santana, Burgundy, and Blue Bandanas. Peace.
Because, I know you was talking about Pyru, and then, Mob James, they Mob Pyru. Is that a street, where did Mob Pyru come from?
Mob Pyru came, the birth of all of that on the east side came from Ludus Park.
Got you, okay.
There's definitely some color story going on.
Before the mob, they was Linwood Crips, and all of their OGs used to be Ludus Park, then they became the mob.
Okay.
The mob, then you got Hollywood. Before Hollywood, they was Pan-Ass Gangster Crips. And the Ludus Park, Marcus Nunn, them, then you had Elms Lane, then you had Lime Hood. All of those were created from Ludus Park.
Okay. And in Watts, the biggest gang is Grape Street?
It would be the Grape Streets and the Bounty Hunters.
Okay.
Those are two of the powerhouses of Watts.
Okay. The Grape Streets are Crips.
Yeah.
Bounty Hunters are Bloods. Was there always a tension between the two, or they kind of got along?
It's crazy because when we grew up, the OGs pretty much told us it was war. So we grew up thinking it was always war. But as I got older and I started to dig and research, actually the whole Watts was unified at one point in time. It was one big gang called the Green Jackets, a whole big gang.
The Green Jackets? I haven't heard of that.
It's Green Jackets. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a big gang. Everybody was part of just one big gang. All the projects were one.
Huh.
And I don't know what happened. I'm not really sure what split. I don't know the full history on what separated everything, but a split happened.
Hey, I ain't mean to scare you. Thought y'all done forgot about me in here. Come on, open the door, let me on out of here.
Stay. It's you?
Of course it's me, open the door.
That ain't your brother.
But it still wasn't beef. Bloods and Crips wasn't beefing. They was just hey, we over here. But
yeah.
But we're still friends. And even to this day, our OGs are still friends. They OGs come over here and the OGs come over here. To this day, it's just the younger people that think that it's war. And I think that got indoctrinated through just hip hop, music, smaller territorial, low resources. all type of just urban tactics that are put in place to make sure we destroy ourselves.
Yeah. I got one. The government putting guns in the hood.
Okay.
That's a fact, though. I don't think that's a
I mean, what came first, the crack or the guns, bro? What are you talking about? Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
In Chicago.
Oh, Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just like the bricks that are placed on pallets in certain cities during the riots. Okay. Okay. Come on, man.
That's where the gang problem, so-called, is. It's been redefined as a crime problem and a gang problem, but it's really an issue of no work and dysfunctional schools and so on.
We know that what we've been doing to deal with gang violence isn't working, but we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then we say, well, the fact that it isn't working doesn't mean that we're acting out of ignorance or maybe we need to learn something. We say it just proves that these kids are unredeemable.
It's a belief that our society did not contribute to the formation of this problem. It's the story of the scapegoat. The gang member is the scapegoat. Nothing's our fault, it's their fault. We didn't create them. They're inevitably incorrigible.
All right, now that we have a better understanding of the twins, we now have to understand the real monster.
This is our first look at Jack O'Connell's character, Remick, who is a lot of fun.
What the hell going on?
Oh, we heard tale of a party.
He's our main antagonist for a good chunk of the film.
Now, in order to properly understand this character, first we need to understand how monsters usually work in horror films. You see, the monster that you see is usually just a representative of something that is monstrous in real life. For instance, in the movie Mother, the mother was really just representative of a loving mother who at one point in time switched around and became destructive, distant, abusive, etc. It's the same thing with the bogeyman, or which is also called the boogeyman, El Coco, El Cucuy, all the same thing, the bootsman, the black man. To further understand this, check out this example.
Name something you know about zombies. Christy.
Black. Zombies have a distinct lineage, one that traces back to equatorial and central Africa. The first clue is in the word zombie itself. Its exact etymological origins are unknown, but there are several candidates. The Mitsugo people of Gabon, for example, use the word nzumbi for corpse. The Kikongo word nzambi refers variously to the supreme being, an ancestor with superhuman abilities, or another deity. And in certain languages spoken in Angola and the Congo, Zumbi refers to an object inhabited by a spirit, or someone returned from the dead.
They're black. Okay.
I don't know if they're white or
You shut up, lady.
In other words, zombification seemed to represent the horrors of enslavement that many Haitian people experienced. It was the worst possible fate, a form of enslavement that not even death could free you from. The zombie was deprived of an afterlife and trapped in eternal subjugation. Because of this, in Haitian culture, zombies are commonly seen as victims deserving of sympathy and care. The zombie underwent a transformation after the U.S. occupation of Haiti began in 1915, this time through the lens of Western pop culture. During the occupation, U.S. citizens propagated many racist beliefs about Black Haitian people. Among false accounts of devil worship and human sacrifice, zombie stories captured the American imagination. And in 1932,
the film takes place in 1932.
Zombies debuted on the big screen in a film called White Zombie. Set in Haiti, the film's protagonist must rescue his fiancée from an evil voodoo master who runs a sugar mill using zombie labor. Notably, the film's main object of sympathy isn't the enslaved workforce, but the victimized white woman.
I can save you from your fate.
You don't need no saving.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so understanding the concept of metaphorical monsters. Now we can get into this vampire.
Suddenly, I became conscious of a trope I didn't even realize existed. Former Confederate vampires.
Let's talk about these bloodsuckers.
Yes, I lied to you.
Now, again, not everyone who fought in the Confederacy side was a slave owner, and we can discuss the reasons why poor, uneducated, non-slave holding white people may have joined the Confederacy, why there were a few people who willingly joined the Confederacy that were black. But I'd argue in this particular conversation, it doesn't matter. Of the 3 vampire leads we'll be talking about, 2 of them are explicitly said to have volunteered, and another is confirmed to have been a slaveholder. And all are treated in the text as educated men who rose in the ranks of the Confederacy. This wasn't a group of poor white boys being forced into doing this out of a mistaken idea of loyalty to their state. I'd argue that the authors are purposefully playing into the lost cause of the Confederacy rhetoric.
They framed the Confederate cause as a heroic defense of the Southern way of life. That narrative has a few basic tenets: the glorification of Confederate soldiers who died for a cause they believed in, the belief that slavery was a benevolent institution, and maybe most importantly, that slavery was not the root cause of the war.
Now that's spooky. So how could someone defeat a monster like that?
The answer to this question can be found deep in the Mississippi Delta of the American South, where the blues was born sometime in the late 1800s.
By 1860, there are roughly 4 million enslaved Africans in the United States. Forcibly transplanted to a new land, they've brought with them a rich African heritage, including songs.
I know you're probably thinking to yourself right now, what does this have to do with defeating the monster? But just stick with me for a little bit longer. It'll all make sense.
Adapted to reflect the experiences of life of hard labor on plantations, these slave work songs, laments, and shouts of protest evolve into a new musical form, the spiritual.
Even after slavery officially ended, poverty and unjust laws kept people from full freedom. Many former slaves stayed in the South and continued to work in difficult conditions. People sang spirituals at church and worked songs in the field to help deal with the daily struggles. Over time,
the spiritual will in turn become the wellspring for generations of musicians who will create
what people now call the blues.
Most blues musicians were farm workers by day and would play at blues bars called juke joints by night. The earliest form of the
blues may have had its roots in Africa, but the music was born in the USA.
I'm going down in Louisiana.
Why is it that there is no blues in Cuba, no blues in Puerto Rico, no blues in St. Kitts and Nevis? Why is that not happening?
I know it still seems like it doesn't make sense, but just a little bit longer. I promise you, when it hit...
Their musical roots may have been ripped from the African soil, but to talk to each other, Black Americans needed to forge a new language.
In the United States, the music was broken up. The people were broken up. They were not parts of the same tribe. So there was nothing to express it except the blues.
Now this is where it all comes together.
In my opinion, the only hope that we kind of have left is music and vibrations. A lot of people don't understand how important it is.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true. It can conjure spirits from the past and the future.
Sometimes I can get behind a mic and I don't know what type of energy I'm gonna push out or where it comes from. Trip me out sometimes.
Because it's spirits. We ain't even really rapping. We just letting our dead homies tell stories for us.
Damn.
This gift can bring fame and fortune.
Well, somebody take me in your eyes.
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death.
Question. Why is it when a black person reaches extraordinary success, people assume they must have sold their soul? From Beyonce, Jay-Z, to Cardi B, Kendrick Lamar.
That's crazy, man.
But this idea didn't start with modern celebrities. It goes all the way back to a poor black blues musician from Mississippi who, according to a legend, traded his soul at the crossroads for a talent beyond human understanding.
And blues is kind of like that. It's kind of a mystery.
But what if I told you that the story of Robert Johnson's deal with the devil wasn't just about him, but how black genius has also been feared? That every time we reach greatness, there is a need to explain it away as
something else entirely.
Something unnatural, something dark, something sinister. That the same myth haunting today's black celebrities is the same one that followed a young guitarist to his grave.
Yeah, a little more supernatural.
A little more supernatural.
Yeah.
So what really happened at the crossroads that night? Did Robert Johnson make a deal with the devil, or was he tapping into something much older, something hidden deep in the roots of black spirituality?
Known as ancestor worship, the practice is woven into the fabric of daily life. But when the transatlantic slave trade ripped people away from their families and way of life, it placed their ancestral chain in terrible danger. To protect it, they turned to religions like Hoodoo, which restored their access to the spirits despite being so far away from home.
But, you know, the conversation today, of course, is specifically about music. Those things are infused with the voodoo culture.
And the relationship between the church and the juke joint is oftentimes
a conflicted one.
Yeah, but it's actually the same kind. It's the same type of environment. You know, you know what I mean. Like you'll see the same people. Saturday night they acting crazy. Sunday morning they acting holy.
Yep.
But it's the same.
Even like I said before, in the black church, the tambourines, the drumming, all of those things are part of voodoo. They started with the voodoo culture. Of course, they have been adapted to meet the needs, the thought patterns, the beliefs of people in contemporary society who feel like,
I don't believe in magic, ghosts, demons.
just don't subscribe to voodoo thoughts and beliefs, but they really are, especially when they're consuming the music and the other forms of content that come from that particular genre. So
this is the story of Hoodoo, the Crossroads,
power,
and how the fear of black excellence became one of the greatest myths in history.
Okay, so now we got how the spiritual war in the movie is going to be fought. But what about the physical one?
War was necessary in order that the world be made safe.
Based off the weapon he's using and the time period, I would say that it's more than likely that he was a World War I veteran.
Drafted in high numbers, African Americans were sent to serve in segregated units. They left home and fought across France.
They were part of the 16th Division, 4th French Army under Henri Gouraud. They had won Croix de Guerre. They had won the Légion d'honneur. They had really shown their mettle, and they were ready to go back home with this victory, and they were faced immediately here in France, in fact, with the idea that, number one, you're not participating in the victory parade. These black soldiers were not allowed to march along the Champs-Élysées. This was under the order of Woodrow Wilson. Carried out by John Pershing. Number one, it was suggested that these soldiers take off their uniforms before they go back home because they didn't want Americans to see black guys coming back with the military uniform.
And when they go back, there are these terrible race riots.
It's incredible.
To continue fighting for the democracy they never knew.
To get back inside.
We gonna kill every last one of you.
Oh yeah, and I can't forget about the significance of the Asian woman that they keep showing either.
In January 1930, the opening of a Filipino dance hall was raided by a mob of 200 white men, marking the start of the Watsonville riots. Filipinos were hunted and beaten violently over the next 5 days by mobs of white men. They were thrown off the Pajaro Bridge, and hunting parties were organized to destroy anywhere Filipinos worked or lived at.
Lastly, I want to help to give a better understanding of Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and why they would come together to create a film like this.
I mean, that's heavy, man. Like, I remember having a conversation about my own identity when I was very young, man. My parents had to sit me down and had a, you black conversation. You know what I mean? And I think that It's a conversation that parents have to have in this country, and I think all over the world, you know, because it's a real thing. If you don't understand, not the fact that your skin looks like this, you know, but if you don't understand the fact that the world is going to treat you a certain way because of that, and you have to be ready for that, you know, it could cost you your life.
And feeling frustrated as a young black man and not really having an outlet to really express myself, being quote unquote known from shows or whatever like that, but not really feeling like I have any real power or impact on the world in that type of way, you know.
Michael B. Jordan is looking to change Hollywood, literally. The actor, alongside the Color of Change organization, has launched the #ChangeHollywood initiative in an effort to end the pattern of systemic racism in the entertainment capital of the world. In a message on Twitter, Jordan wrote, "Hollywood has a history of racism, excluding black talent, silencing black voices, derailing black careers, and propping up policing and injustices."
Now to a troubling story involving one of America's most successful filmmakers. Ryan Coogler is best known as the director of films like Black Panther and Fruitvale Station, but in January, he found himself being handcuffed at a Bank of America in Atlanta. It turns out he was falsely detained after a teller mistook him for a bank robber.
Hollywood, break the pattern. It's about time. And instead of just talking the talk, Michael is also walking the walk with #ChangeHollywood.
And that should be enough to help you understand the trailers a bit better. I think it's like 3 of them. Please go watch them. No, I ain't sponsored. No, I ain't making no bread. I'm gonna be broke off this video probably because I use certain things in here. But either way it go, man, I think it's gonna be a fire movie and that we should all go see it. Support your boy. Links in the description. And it's knowledge itself. Or you could have chaos in a mouth.